So I wanted to just quickly thank Topic, which is a new streaming service from First Look Media. It's curated for a curious and engaged audience seeking smart, provocative, and meaningful entertainment. Topic features North American premieres and programming from around the world, complemented by a diverse slate of originals, included scripted comedies and dramas, talk shows, documentaries, features, and more. Topic is available to US and Canadian audiences on topic.com, Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Android, and Prime Video channels. And because we're doing this with Topic, they were excited to offer the USC community a special offer. When you go to topic.com, you can put in USC Seoul City 2020, which will give you guys 2 months of free access to Topic without any kind of credit card. And the code only works through the web sign up, but once you're registered, you'll get it on the web and your Android and Roku, Apple TV, etc. So if you guys are interested and you haven't already signed up, just go to go.topic.com/USC. Tonight, we're going to talk about Seoul City, which is a fantastic new series. It's right now in their first season, just a 3-episode season, but all 3 of them are fantastic, and we'll talk about them individually. But I'd love to introduce you guys to Coodie and Chike, the creators of the series. And I'm just going to switch this over to gallery view for a second so that everyone can see us simultaneously. So with one half hailing from Chicago and the other New Orleans, the award-winning duo crossed paths in New York in 2002. Their first collaboration in 2004 resulted in a chart-topping video that instantly catapulted the career of one of the world's largest entertainers, Kanye West. The duo solidified their working relationship from this point on and continued to collaborate with high-profile artists such as Pitbull, Mos Def, The Black Keys, Christina Aguilera, Erykah Badu, Ed Sheeran, Gil Scott-Heron, so many artists. It's amazing. But in 2009, they launched their own digital network to go along with their production company, Creative Control, called creativecontrol.tv, that showcases the versatility of their storytelling. And Creative Control's great success behind building a brand digitally led them to basically work on new long-form projects, including the 30 for 30 documentary Benji, a documentary for BET Networks called Muhammad Ali, the People's Champ, and most recently A Kid from Coney Island. And then the show that we're going to talk about here, Seoul City, is basically a series that exposes the multicultural world of a select American city and its urban population through the lens of psychological horror stories. And this season is all set in New Orleans. So welcome, guys. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Right, thanks. Thanks for the introduction too, man. Thank you. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's great. It's great to have you here. So I'd love to know how this series started. Where did the first initial idea for it come from?
Well, honestly, we had to step back just a second because, like, for us, it kind of came in a situation of, like you said in the intro, we started off as music video directors, and we've done so many music videos for so many artists. And the moment we've decided to transition over to actually doing scripted narrative, it wasn't as easy as we thought it might have been. We always looked at ourselves as just storytellers and just using the medium of film to be able to tell stories, whether it's through music videos or through documentaries or through scripted narrative. So we always had looked at things as just one thing. This is kind of like in our 20s thinking like this. And the moment we decided to try to make that transition, we found it pretty difficult. It wasn't that easy. And we went from music videos to documentaries. And this is a point now where we're starting to transition. So this project was our first scripted narrative. And the reason why it happened is we knew we needed to do a short. Our route to filmmaking has been more kind of untraditional. We didn't go to film school. I went to art school.
You went to art school.
I went to art school, but I didn't go to film school. I went to art school. I actually majored in motion graphics. So my background's in motion graphics. And Coodie went to school pretty much in the streets, but he went to school. So
taught myself.
taught himself. So our background was already untraditional. So we never like thought like, oh, we need to make a short, and a short would be the thing that could help us. So this was really like our short. It just so happened we was able to figure out a way to get it financed so that we didn't have to come out of our own pocket to do it. That's what we were going to do, was like, let's just self-finance a project for us. But luckily we ran into Audrey and Jess, Audrey Rosenberg and Jess Jacobs. They have a production company called Invisible Pictures. And they just hit us at a time when we were really ready to transition. And they had their relationship with Topics. And we had met Audrey at like a HBO kind of diversity panel, and really just kicked it with Audrey as a friend for about a year or two. And then as soon as she had this opportunity, she brought it to us. And at first it was really about, do we have anything that we can bring to Topics that's like episodic or that we could serialize? And we didn't have anything. We weren't thinking of anything like episodic, but we knew we wanted to do these short films, and we just finished doing like these Facebook projects. And so that were kind of like 15-second nuggets of content. And we both did a piece. And so one of the ones that we did for that was initially what became Grace. But it was like this animated 15-second piece that we did that was inspired by like these living conditions in Hong Kong, where they had people sort of like living in these really tight, actually I can show you better than I can. So we wound up doing like this little animated thing called, which you could see. So this was like an animation that we did, and that was Grace. Wow. And it all came from like the concept from these little cubbies, like people were living in these cubbies. So we're just like, man, would it be crazy if somebody got stuck in one of these? You know what I mean? What kind of nightmare would that create? And so that's kind of was the inception behind Grace. And Pillow Shop was like a dream that I had. And every time, I have like a dream, I would tell Coodie, and then Coodie and I would just go and brainstorm. And Coodie actually was a professional comedian.
Yeah.
So his ability for years, he did BET stand-up comedy. So he's really good with just timing and storytelling. So usually we'll just collaborate together on a story once one of us has come up with an idea. Mm-hmm. And so when Audrey and Jess came to us, it was more like, well, we had this one idea over here, and we had this one idea of, well, how can we creatively bring these ideas together with a through line? And that's kind of how we came up with Soul City, using sort of Expedite, this cab driver, as like a through line character that can interweave them together.
Yeah. So you gotta realize when you do a music video, all of a sudden you become a music video director. Mm. And you have to prove yourself extra. So you gotta prove, can you do a long form? So then you go to documentaries. Then documentaries, oh, you're a documentarian director, a documentary director. Mm. Then it's like you gotta prove yourself each and every time to go to the next step. So that's what Chike is saying, that now we got that opportunity through Topic, and let's see where we go next.
So when you had the idea to turn Grace into something, did you already have other stories you wanted to tell, or how did that process evolve into the three? I mean, the idea of, first of all, setting them all in New Orleans for the first season, and drawing on some of the folklore from around there.
Well, we both, I think, Coodie being from Chicago, me being from New Orleans, a goal of ours, and we've told, like, one of our documentaries, Benji, was based on Ben Wilson out of Chicago. And so we've been passionate about telling stories from the cities that we were raised in, just because we have a point of view from those experiences. So we always knew we want to do something in Chicago. We've been developing projects out of that are based Chicago-based, and we know we want to do stuff out of New Orleans, and we've been developing projects New Orleans-based. So, like, actually, like, Give Man was a project that we had been thinking about, which a friend of mine, Alan Frederick, who I grew up with, we had been working on a screenplay, trying to bring that to life. Mm. Pillow Shop was a dream, like I told you before, that Coodie and I turned into an actual, like, a little, like, short, like a short book. We actually had an illustrator. Mm-hmm. I love these, like, virtual backgrounds, because I can actually kind of show you. So we actually turned that into, like, this little.
Oh, wow.
So we had this covered this book. So it was like a 15-page short story that we turned it into. And then, and then we had the idea of Grace that came through that other project was with Facebook. So we're like, me being from New Orleans was just like, man, I think we can really, what if we just anchor all these into New Orleans? Give Man was the only one that really was created out of being in New Orleans. Grace and Pillow Shop were kind of flexible. And then, but once we built out Grace, we really built it out with in mind of like, how can we take advantage of New Orleans tradition, just things that I know that I grew up with. It's almost like from on my porch, I've seen all this stuff happen around me that hasn't really gotten any exposure. Like, how can we start bringing exposure to some of these, you know, cultural nuances that I've seen growing up that haven't really seen the light of day? Because just, I think as being Black creatives, a lot of our stories are just kind of now starting to get exposed, just different versions of our stories. Like, we've seen a lot of some of the same narratives, but now we're finally being able to see. And I think Get Out definitely had a lot to do with that. It was a catalyst for that. But being able just to be able to express the different parts of our culture that we know exist, but that other people might not know exist, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I have to ask about the ways in which you managed to get in all these beats in such a short amount of time, because I was so impressed, especially with the way that you guys concluded Grace, because, you know, it's sort of, you jump in time and then you find an ending, and it's really so well done within such a short amount of time. How hard was that?
I mean, I think you learn what, like, you know, just when we told, when we did music videos, you know, which is 3 minutes, you have to tell a story, you know, and I think we successfully did that with like Jesus Walks and Kanye West, Jesus Walks, and a few other videos that we did, you know. So I feel like when it came to doing that, we, you know, and we had this guy Renzo write it. He wrote it, you know, to the time, and we, you know, worked with him, and it was pretty, you know, it was more than a video, so it made it special. But, you know, we want to do real long form narratives, but and we thought that those should be longer.
And we thought it through pretty well. Like, I think one thing that helped us is, like, before we got it to Renzo, we pretty much encompassed, like, thought out all our beats that we knew we wanted to hit. So, like, he, as a writer, our collaboration with him definitely, like, didn't want to constrain him. So definitely was like, yo, get loose. But, like, in our minds, these are the beats. You know, don't feel like you have to get locked into them. We want to see what you can bring to the table, because, like, as a writer, you know, they can bring in a whole other world that can work or not work. So he definitely really helped us, like, orchestrate those beats. And I think too, also, like, you got to give respect to every genre you get into. For us, This Is Horror was, like, the first time jumping into it. So, like, doing some of the research just to figure out the right ways to execute certain things in horror. I think we did some things really well. I think some we could have done a lot better, you know. So just trying to figure out the correct way to really do a jump scare. Like, it seems like it's really easy, but it's not. You know what I'm saying? Like, I definitely feel like on our ending for Grace, like, I feel like we could have nailed it stronger than we did. Yeah, I mean, that's just me being critical. We're always critical of our work, and I think you always have to be a student of what you're doing and be honest with yourself about it. So, like, I feel like that's one thing, like, man, I can't wait till we do it again so we can really nail that. You know what I'm saying? And then there's other things that I feel like we really nailed, being able to subtly hide the context and gravity of an issue that I think is much deeper than what we showed, but not trying to give you something that's so deep. It's still something light and entertaining, but if you want to dig deep underneath the rug, you know, you'll find some trash there.
Mm-hmm.
What did you guys look to for inspiration in terms of just working within the genre? Did you guys grow up as horror fans, or did you kind of sort of come to it when you were a little bit older?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely grew up. My mother and I are like Poltergeist, like Twilight Zone, Tales from the Dark Side, like Tales from the Crypt. Like, we spend nights watching, like, up until 3 a.m. Like, it's the only thing that my mother actually used to, like, as a kid, let me stay up late night and watch with her, because she loved watching it. So we'd watch all the Twilight Zone. So we definitely pulled a lot of inspiration from just, like, you know, Amazing Stories, Tales from the Crypt, Twilight Zone. I definitely would say Amazing Stories probably the most, because it's a very unique type of horror in a sense. It's like, it's not really trying to scare you. It's more kind of, and it's not necessarily trying to creep you. It's just really trying to make you think. And it's more psychological than anything, but then it offers sort of like a moral or a lesson, you know, afterwards.
Yeah, and I'm more 70s 70s baby, so I'm like into like Black exploitation and those type of stories. But you know, when Chike happened, like Chike, when he have a dream and wake up from it, and then he had this idea, I'm listening and I'm supporting it. Let's go. You know what I mean? So I really wasn't a horror type of guy, but you know, I definitely watched Twilight Zone and love those shows. But you know,
and I think for my relationship too, like Coodie and I, we spent so many years like influencing each other. Like when I first met Coodie, you know, he put me up on like a lot of these older Black films, and just seeing the soul of some of those films. You know, that now resonates in my mind when I'm thinking of stuff. You know, so I think naturally we're at a part like if I'm thinking something, so much of what I'm thinking is so much a part of because of what I've gotten from just our relationship, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, and probably vice versa. So it's like we're two people, but at times I think like our minds are almost like one because we've just collectively have talked and shared so much stuff with each other.
The three films are all pretty sort of stylistically unique. Mm-hmm. Tell us about how you guys like decided on the aesthetics for each.
I'd say like they're all inspired differently by different things and different like visually. And like I'd say Grace, the black and white was definitely, you know, we felt like that was just the only way to really want to, and we thought about maybe making the whole series black and white. You shoot different. Your compositions are different when you shoot in black and white. Yeah. You know, usually when you shoot black and white, we like to like actually look at it in black and white. So I feel like we could get more daring with our compositions, sort of like Twilight Zone kind of push the envelope more with some of our framing, get more extreme with it. We definitely referenced this film called Killer of Sheep by
Charles Burnett.
Like the way he captured that era. So, and the way he was able to capture just soul with such a raw essence. So we just knew we wanted to capture like New Orleans like that because New Orleans and there's still areas in New Orleans that haven't changed since the 60s. You know what I mean? So to be able to go into some of these churches and capture, I mean, like, so we were pulling things like when we were, some of our references for that would be like, we'd actually even pull like Gordon Parks' photography, because Gordon Parks does the same thing in his photography and just capturing the essence of just like Black life within these periods. And then obviously taking it back to New Orleans, like really like, what does that church experience look like? No. Church. And so I did a lot of just digging behind some, even here you could see like we pulled like some stuff from these pictures. He Is Risen, you can see that in our piece. So really kind of doing some homework and really seeing like, what did that ever, and then I remember going to the church with my grandmother. She went to like this like church around the corner from me. I grew up in a pretty predominantly Black neighborhood. So the church felt like this. And I remember there's certain aspects of the church that were very intimidating to me because I was used to going to like this big St. Louis cathedral. So going to this other church, it just was like, these are elements of like that are kind of creepy, but they're not meant to be creepy. But as a kid, you're like, oh, that's kind of weird. You know what I'm saying? So that was like, and then Pillow Shop wanted to be lighter. We wanted Pillow Shop to feel like, can we create something that like, it didn't matter if it was about, if the characters were all Black or Asian or white or whatever, it didn't matter. It was like a story that you could fit anybody in. And that's kind of what we wanted to, because I feel like sometimes like people try so hard to like figure out, well, what does Black look like on screen? Like sometimes it can just be easily relatable. Like everybody can relate. It's just a suburban family, and the suburbs is the culture. You know what I'm saying? So that was kind of the vibe for like Pillow Shop, and everybody can kind of relate to that, you know? And then Give Me, I think really just played to the mystery of New Orleans, and really like playing off of some of these characters. Like there's this voodoo Haitian character, Papa Legba, and Papa Legba has this like, top hat. So that's kind of how we like, well, how can we play off this top hat vibe and come up with this? That's how we kind of came up with this shadow that looms with this top hat. And then that's how we kind of got to Expedite and this through line. And then trying to interweave that with something that like the United Cab, the cabs actually is a huge thing in New Orleans, I guess because of being a tourism place. A lot of people before, you know, Ubers and everything, cabs are really big. And so we did some research and found like there was this Dejois cab was the first Black cab service in New Orleans, and like just finding imagery around that and how can we like represent that. And so having this character Expedite sort of be like, okay, well, he can always pick up people. And we want to do more with that. Like we really want Expedite, and hopefully moving forward, we'll be able to bring him in sort of as the crypt keeper and like have him picking up fares and telling these stories to these fares. And so in the stories he's telling are just these different vignettes that we have as an episode, you know, but bringing another layer to that and bringing Expedited the cab driver kind of into modern times and making that aesthetic almost like Taxi Cab Confessions. So he's like talking to these regular people, you know what I'm saying? And then he's actually in the stores as the cab driver. So that's the way we've been thinking. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
How did you guys, I guess, work with Topic on what this season would be? I've already vented my disappointment that you guys only made 3 because they're so good. And I wanted to know basically like how that got decided on, that it would be these 3 and not 6 or 10. I mean, it's unusual to see a 3-episode season, and I can imagine each one of these, it took a lot to get made. So tell us about the process of deciding that, and what working with Topic was like altogether, because they obviously distribute, they show a lot of stuff that they're bringing in from other places, but then this is actually original to their platform. So what was that?
Well, Topic really, like, in the midst of it, I'd say, like, when we first were exploring the situation with Topic, and Mona was over at Topic, who we were working with, and so it was kind of like Topic hadn't launched their video platform yet, so they were still very much their photojournalistic scenario. So we were going to kind of still be, because it had such our pieces had such a cultural essence behind it, it still was going to fit into like that category. And they do everything sort of like a magazine, so every issue or season has like a different topic. So ours was going to fall under this topic. So it would be other like photojournalistic type of work that ours would have fallen in with. But then they switched just basically their overall structure and kind of went into this whole SVOD platform. So which it was a whole restructure that they did. So actually made our thing even bigger, because now we're so that's probably why it started as 3, because for 3 it would have been like, oh, we're going to do 3 episodes on their sort of photojournalistic platform, and those would be proof of concepts that they could actually, as a studio, shop to like a Netflix or a bigger company to pick up potentially. But now they don't. Now they are the Netflix, so it's a little bit different. But that wasn't the case when we first did the deal. And I think it was definitely like coming up with these, the producers we work with, Jess Jacobs and Audrey, they were very much like creative producers. So they kind of helped us mold and along with Mona Panchal, just figure out the best strategy of how to bring these to life and what would be the best, working with the budgets that they had. It definitely was budget constrictions. They're not really doing big budget stuff on that platform before it converted over to what it is now. So we had to figure out, okay, we got this amount of money. We could either do 1 or stretch it to 3. We couldn't go more than, there wasn't enough money we were tight trying to do these 3.
Right.
Our days were like, we had stuff that we probably should have taken 4 or 5 days to shoot. We had to cram it into like a 1 or 2 day shoot.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What was the toughest day?
When we had to shoot
the dream
sequence, yeah, and pillow shot.
We had to shoot the whole dream sequence in 1 day in that hotel. We only had the hotel for 1 day, so we had to shoot everything in that day.
Yeah.
Did you get it all? Did you get it all?
We did, with grace and everything. You know what I'm saying? Definitely had to. Luckily, we ran a good crew. So the crew, that's another thing too. We had an amazing crew. And in New Orleans, New Orleans is if you're just real, if you don't bring the Hollywood to New Orleans, and I think that's a important thing, is like people underestimate, as a filmmaker, the director, you're the leader of like your crew. You set the tone. And if you can become personal with your crew, like actually really just care about everybody involved, like, yeah, we're trying to make a product, and there's a business behind it, but it's still about people and sharing energy with one another. And if like we can genuinely respect and care about everybody, just people and their journey, their stories, like we pray before all of our shoots. We just try to create a family of it. So then it's like people want to do things. You want to do things for other people. Like it becomes a real family. We still keep in contact with people. We're very passionate about working with these people again when we go down to New Orleans, So I think you set the tone, and then that also helps get you through these days, because everybody wants to see you win as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
It's amazing that New Orleans is, I think, just recorded 3 days without new COVID cases.
I know. I'm actually down here. I'm down in Baton Rouge right now.
Oh.
I'm 45 minutes out. So man,
Fantastic.
yeah.
So I also wanted to ask about the transition from documentary directing and music video to having to direct actors. That must have been an interesting transition.
Well, we storytellers, and I have I did stand-up comedy, and I also took acting classes. I did some movies, so I at least understand the actor. Me and Chike, and we just went in and we got some great actors involved, through our relationships because of music videos and things that we did in the documentary space. We had great relationships with Omar Dorsey and Jess and them had great relationships with Chad Coleman. So we had an all-star cast to direct Dorian McKenzie. So that made it easy. But when a movie, I always look at a movie, and a movie is bad and the acting is bad, I don't blame nothing but the director, because you know what I mean? Because you have to bring it out you got to get what you need, so Chike, you got.
Well, I mean, I think it works to just the way we work together as well, too, because Coodie has been on the other side of being in front of the camera, and me, I usually, coming from my art school background, sometimes I get very, when we're on set together, our dynamic, it works because, I can be with art department a lot and really and with the DP a lot and really focusing on like the framing and how that frame is moving the story forward through the emotion of what it's saying, and Coodie can really be fixed in on like how to get the most out of the director for that scene, talk to him in a way from what he knows from being in front of the screen, and vice versa. We can switch it up, but we can lean on each other's strengths when we're on set as well, and I think it helps make the sets run smoother too, because you don't have one person feeling like the whole weight of all this is on me, and I'm thinking about 10 different things at one time. We could do that, but I think we don't have to do that. So it helps our set move smoother.
Well, you guys do have amazing actors in the show.
Yeah.
I'm sure they bring so much. But you also did work with a young actor for Grace, and I'm curious if that was different, or how working with someone that young is compared to working with people who've been making their careers.
Well, Coodie was amazing with that. I think because he has a daughter, so he
12 years old, 12-year-old daughter. So yeah, I at least knew how to work with her, and just she was amazing in her own right. It wasn't, I had to really get her to focus at times because she's a kid, but other than that, she pulled it off, and then we kept going until we got what we wanted, we didn't but she was nailing it.
Yeah, and I think too, it's also like one thing we had to learn, because this was our first time working with a child, and a lot of times these things, it's not about the easiest part is most of the time is getting what you want out of because especially if you know the story, especially if you know what you want and you've lived it, it's easy to express to the actor what you're looking for. The stuff you don't think about is the production side of things. Oh, she's a child, so she can only do so many hours on set,
right.
Because she has to break for tutoring and stuff like that. I didn't even know it. I didn't even, right. I wasn't even thought. So now your days are even shorter because you only really got X amount of time to work with her before she has to take a break, which I'm sure she wouldn't even mind. She doesn't really probably care about having to break to do homework and stuff. She'd probably rather do the acting, but it's just when you're doing stuff with the union, you have to abide by these rules. So that was the thing that we were able to handle, but it was a loop. I didn't know that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So what would you guys be doing if you made a second season right now?
Oh, we already have. We have 10 episodes already mapped out. Really diving into the culture. We want to bring you stuff that, in New Orleans, there's so many people don't really know about the Black Indians. There's stories around these Black Indians that we want to actually bring to the forefront. And so it's navigating those terrains, bringing more imagery that really deals with the city. So you're seeing these elements of the city expressed, but through this genre. So we have about 10 episodes that are super, like you haven't seen. Like these were just kind of like, these are still, I'd say, kind of still very watered down as far as how we want to penetrate the culture and show these nuances of just that are very unique to New Orleans. So there'll be things that you just haven't even seen before, you know.
And then we want to take you. Then we want to take you to Chicago as well. You know, for a whole season of 13 episodes. We came up with those, you know, as well. So, and then maybe Detroit and Miami and just different.
So the whole thing is to hop, and you know, every city there's nuances to that city that if you're not from that city, you don't know, and only locals there really know. You know, that grew up there because they've been there and their families have been there for generations. They know those ins and outs, those things that you're only really gonna, you know, it's like as a tourist, if you go a place for the first time, you're gonna go to the touristy spots, but it's like sometimes you want to. What are the mom and pop spots talking about? That's where you really find the heart of the city. You know what I mean? So,
I grew up in DC. I'd love to see a season of this set.
Right?
Right. Yeah, DC would be a good city.
Yeah.
What about Chicago would inspire you?
I mean, you know, just it's a lot to Chicago. You know, it was founded by a black man, DuSable, Baptiste DuSable, and it's just, you know, the history there with the Indians and just the segregation and that whole thing. You know, we got one, I shouldn't give it away, but one that where somebody in a real racist neighborhood turned into opposite, you know, turned into another race that's hated on for a day. How about that? But, you know, just things like that, just those nuances of Chicago, and, you know, it's.
So I want to start folding in some questions from the students. And I just want to quickly say there was a question earlier about if I can put the website and the code in the chat, and I will.
Go for it.
I just need a second to do that. But okay, so if anyone wants to ask a question, just throw it into the Q&A box, and then I'll call on you guys individually, and I'll move you from attendee to panelist so that you can actually ask it live. So let's start with Stephen Taylor, and I'm gonna move you over. Let's see if we got you.
That's crazy. I didn't know you could do all this on Zoom. Like, this is dope.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, Stephen, let's see your audio too.
What's up, Stephen?
Peace.
Hey.
Peace, bro.
Really nice to see you guys. This has been the most excited I've been in a while for a series. Primarily because of what you all are doing, something that I've always wanted to do. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago.
That's nice.
So it's about folklore, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So just hearing you all talking about taking these things to different cities, I'm like, yo, what about coming to Trinidad, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
My question is along this line where while I was at USC, I remember trying to pitch a lot of folklore. And we have more of an African essence, that historic kind of thing with Bach and Sukunia and different Laja stuff, right? And a lot of what I was faced with was trying to retain the essence of the law while trying to also create it in such a way where audiences can follow along. So my question, which I wrote down, was, how do you maintain the essence of the law, of that folklore, without diluting it? Because you did talk about it being kind of watered down. And how do you navigate that without making audiences bump? Because most of my challenge, like right now I'm writing a folklore, is you have to kind of, if you want audiences to get into it, some things just got to go. So what was that like for you guys? And how much of an affinity do you have to representing the law in its truest form?
Man, I mean, I feel like, one, you just can't underestimate the audience. I feel like a lot of times, and this people will have, there's like two sides to this coin, because when you start talking with execs, they actually want you to like, they really want you to hit the nail on the, they want you to like hit the nail on the nose, you know, and they want you to kind of like spell it out. And I think, you know, they want you to, and I don't think things need to be spelled out. I think we underestimate the audience. I think, you know, there's been films in the past that, like, I think the reason why they were amazing was because they captured their culture unapologetically. They didn't try to massage the dialogue so that you would understand what was being said. Mm-hmm. When you convey the soul of something, and when you convey it based on just like archetypal storytelling, like if you just follow the rules of storytelling, I think your audience will follow along, and it's like an emotional connection. It's like sometimes when if you watch a foreign film and you don't watch the subtitles, if it's a good film, you're still going to, if you don't even read the subtitles, you'll still feel the emotion, you'll still feel the film, you'll still be compelled, you know what I'm saying? So I think with that being said, as long as you're able to identify the emotional thread that you're trying to, what's the journey I'm trying to take my audience on, and adhere to that, then they'll fall in line. You know what I mean? Don't worry about watering down like dialect or things that are being said. Like figure out creative ways with the use of subtitles to explain if you feel it's necessary to explain it. But I think as long as you're here to just basic storytelling principles, and you constantly are moving the narrative forward, and making sure you're driving your audience members somewhere, carrying your protagonist the right way, you know, as long as you're adhering the proper rules, you can be out the box with everything else, you know?
So my question with that is, with Give Man, which was my favorite in all of them, mm-hmm. because it really lent itself to that sort of Haitian culture. Yeah. How much poetic license did you take in developing that story? Because also I realize with Folklore, it's not really a full fleshed out thing. They have like little pieces of the story. How much of you guys did you put into it to make it more complete? That's my final question.
I'd say because of our situation working with the studio, I do think that like we did fall in that, like we did water down a lot of our stuff. Our scripts were kind of watered down, not in a bad way. We found a middle ground, because I think there's some things where we wanted to be a little bit more abstract with, and they wanted to be more direct with. So I'd say like probably 70%, there's probably 30% out there that we really would have wanted to like nail in more. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. And I felt like for us, it was a strategy. We felt like for these first three, we just want to get in. So let's just make studio happy, get in. And then as it builds more of a base, then we can get more raw with it, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited that you're getting in. I showed everybody in the film industry down in Trinidad, and just
I appreciate
everybody
that.
in the region, because it's nice to see Folklore happening. And kudos, guys, following you.
Thank you, man. I'd love to see it expressed. I'd love to see it expressed in Trinidad too. Like I have friends from Trinidad. Like I've been dying to get down there, but I already know culturally. I already know it would like we haven't even seen that yet. You know what I'm saying? Like there's so much there. Yeah.
So much, but a lot of it is what you talked about, like trying to retain the essence of the culture. Mm-hmm. How much of it is for what the target audience is? If it's actually targeted to Caribbean folks, are they going to follow along? How do you bridge that sort of global aspect? So
the one thing that gets, which is interesting, because we were in Barbados at the Barbados Film Festival just recently, and this is where it gets interesting, is because humor is different when you start traveling out of the country. You know what I'm saying? So that's the one thing, whether you're in Beijing, whether you're in Barbados, like that becomes the thing. And it's like some things that might be seen as funny can be blatant disrespect. So it's like, those are the ones you have to just figure out, okay, how can this, if I want this to be funny, how can this be funny to the masses? Especially like in African culture, there's a different type of humor in Nigeria. You know what I'm saying? Nollywood is a very different beast when it comes to that. So
but horror works all across.
Across, yeah.
Thanks, guys. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I really appreciate it. I'll tag you in some things from Trinidad. You can check
it out.
Thanks, Alex.
Hi, Steven.
All right.
Okay, so let's go ahead and call on Shelly Moore. I just need a second to find her in the lineup. Okay, Shelly, you're with us, and you can turn on your video if you want.
Oh, hi. Sorry. Yeah, I just typed my question. I'm not.
It's
Oh
all
yeah,
good.
don't worry about it.
My daughters ran from the room. They're like, "Oh my god!" But yeah, I was just wondering about how it was working. I thought you would just read my question, and I was just wondering about what it was like working with the platform topic versus the music video platforms. And pitching that, did you have an agent you were pitching with? How did that work?
You want to take Coodie?
You can go ahead, Chike.
Pitching it was, well, so yeah, so the producers, Jess Jacobs and Audrey Rosenberg, they had their relationship with Topic. So they walked us in, sort of shepherded us in. It was a lot of meetings, like, you know, and I don't know if that's normal. It just, I think every situation when you're doing something like this is unique. So for us, it just was a lot of meetings, meeting with one exec, then another room of execs. So you found yourself kind of pitching, doing multiple pitches, which isn't really the best. Like, it's for us at least, pitches are kind of like exhausting. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're trying to pitch a series, because it's like a Bible. You're going through so much, but it's necessary, I guess, when you're dealing with at a corporation, because they just have so many levels of people that have to be on the same page. So you wind up doing your pitch over and over again. And you're in this like state of limbo for a while, not really knowing if it's gonna go or not gonna go. You know, obviously as filmmakers, you've been in positions where like something just seems like it's gonna go and it just crashes and burns. Like, so you're never really confident that something's gonna go. So we kind of feel like you're in limbo. You really don't really feel like it's real until the check is cut. And I think that's just in most situations, at least that we've been in with projects, period. But yeah, we had somebody come in, and because we had those producers, they were really able to like help us craft our deck in a way where what information they felt would be the right information, because you can craft your deck in so many ways. So they really helped us craft our deck in a way that they felt, because they knew the people at they knew that the climate and the temperature of what they would respond to. So we kind of used their knowledge of that to help build our deck in a way that we felt it would resonate best with Topic. But it wasn't like, and it was very different with music videos. Like when we do music videos, usually we just write a treatment. There's a video commissioner that's usually at the label, and the video commissioner will share the treatment with the artist. If the artist likes the treatment and they greenlight it, it's pretty much everything is based on the treatment, and there's not that much back and forth. You know, the treatment spells everything out visually, so everybody knows what they're going to kind of get, and it's quick. This is way more intensive. There's a lot of people have to be on the same page. There's a lot of revising. We have to revise our scripts for like a couple of months. It was a process. It definitely, the longest part of the process was getting it greenlit. The fastest part was actually shooting it and editing it.
Great, thanks for sharing. Sounds like a great process, and now that you have it down, hopefully it'll go smoother and quicker for you in the future. But I love the first episode. I'm dying to get to watch the second too. So
yeah, actually, now that you mention that, so I freely watched all three, but I guess I had a sort of special privileges because Topic wanted me to be able to check them all out. Are the other two yet to air?
They're on. I think it depends on they're live. I know they had a promotion going, and they were giving the first one out for people to watch, and the other two were behind the paywall. So I don't know if they gave you guys a thing where you could watch.
I'll check it out for anyone that had that problem. I'll check it out with Topic and just bring that up because there's.
But the cool thing about the people at Topic is like they wanted to like they were excited about this stuff, and so they wanted us to like really express the culture. Like it was you have it was a great working experience altogether. You know what I'm saying? Like the meetings that were back and forth, it wasn't because they were shooting our stuff down. It's just that they just have different departments and everybody has to approve of the project. So.
Yeah.
All right, I want to go to Nicole Thompson. Let me just switch her over. Hey.
What's up?
How you doing?
How's it going?
Nikki, hang on. Let me unmute you. Okay.
My question, I'm curious to know a little bit more about your process as a directing duo. It's been really exciting tracking your journey, but you mentioned very briefly a little bit about how you guys kind of divide the task. Can you speak a little bit more about your process of what you're doing and what he's doing throughout the day as a directing team? How do you split it up?
It's almost like being at two places at one time with us. You know, we when we met, we understood that we thought kind of the same thoughts. We had the same. We just related to a lot of things, and I remember Chike seeing the show Channel Zero that I had, and I seen the work that he was doing, and I'm like, yo, so it's like, and also I'm older, so I'm like, what, 6 years older than you, Chike? So Chike is real progressive, and I'm like, I kind of bring it back down, and then we meet in the middle, and that middle is where we live. And like we were saying earlier, I was, doing stand-up comedy and acting, and so I come in more like on the storytelling side of things, and both of us can do both, but Chike is more on the like designs and typography and all them things that he taught me about that I didn't know anything about. I'm like, yo, okay, oh nice, let's do it. But yeah, Chike, go ahead. You wanna?
And I think there's different ways for different projects. Like we both individually have ideas, get excited about something. And so I think the one thing about us is we just support each other and we figure out what's the best way for this project. There's some projects that Coodie's from Chicago. He has things that are about Chicago. There are things that so when it comes to him writing something about that, my involvement can only be so much in a sense of crafting the story from Chicago because I don't know that much, and vice versa if it's from New Orleans. So then, but I do know what I can bring to the table for him, what I know I'm good at, and vice versa. So we rely on each other's strengths in those aspects. It's like, okay, once he gets to a certain point, then I know I can come in with this part and add to it, and vice versa. And then there's some things that aren't native to where we're from or that don't have anything to do with like our backgrounds that we can just collectively, we just collectively go back and forth on and build it together. Like he'll call me and he'll add this to it and then I'll add that to it. But one thing I think what we do is like, if somebody has an idea, we respect each other's ideas because we know each other and we already respect each other as professionals and we admire each other. So like if he has an idea, I'm already respecting that idea to be great. And so it's like, what can I add to the idea? I'm not trying to come up with another idea. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So when you're shooting and you're essentially making your day, it's really you guys working collectively and like getting your shots captured, and it's not like you're over there and there's like you guys are kind of powering through together.
I mean, sometimes like I'll be over here working with the shot and Coodie's over there working with the directors. You know what I'm saying? Like I could leave the set completely if I wanted to and know when I come back, he could rock the whole shot. You know what I'm saying? And
I did. I left it with I had to go shoot something else and left for a day.
Yeah. And I think that works well too, because like you're not just as people, we're not always on. Like you just can be off one day. So I feel like being able to carry load, like I know he'll carry my load if I'm just not on for whatever reason. Maybe I'm in my head about something and I'm just not 100%. I don't really have to worry about it because I know he'll kill it. You know what I'm saying? And vice versa. And those things happen, especially when you're shooting series. This is our first series. So like, this was our first experience shooting days back to back to back. And we had to really like shooting late and coming back early. Like that was an experience for us. So like, but the perfect thing is like, we can trust on the other person to carry a load if one just isn't feeling that great that moment. That's unique for having two. That's what's special for two people. You know what I'm saying?
But the real thing is though, you know, we spiritual people, and you know, when you have faith, like, you know, I always say Jesus direct. So when you have that type of faith, when you go into a project, it's like everything just it really get done. You get the, you know, without the right budget, have to shoot something all day. One thing that would have took 3 or 4 or 5 days to shoot, we had to do in one day. You know, I'm just looking at, I'm like, we good because we got God doing this. You know what I mean? So he just put us in the right. That's how I look at it. You know.
Yeah.
Can I just touch on that real quickly? Because like for me, coming up in school, like one of the main things I did whenever we shot, I would put on my schedule, like I would time it into our schedule to have a prayer. And I'm curious to know if you, because you said you pray, you as a team, you guys pray over your day, hoping that the production will go well with covering. Do you invite your crew to join in on that prayer?
Oh no, the crew got it. The crew. It don't even matter. It doesn't even matter if you believe in God. Like you in the circle, we're in there with us because what we're doing is we're just cultivating the proper energy. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, energy is very real. And we want that energy to be positive throughout our day. We want us to all be vibrating on the same level. You know what I'm saying? So we'll just set the tone of the day to make sure that this energy is uplifting and it's positive and there's no negative energy. And it doesn't really matter where you're coming in from. You come in from where you come in from, but we can meet here commonly together. You know what I'm saying? So.
Well, thank you so much and good luck with the entire process. So we're so excited for what's to come and congrats again.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. For sure.
All right, let's see. Marcus has a question, so let me just switch Marcus over. And
it's Capri.
oh, hey.
Peace.
Hey.
Let me put my video on. I want to hide. Well, I just want to commend you guys because I love how you got in the mind of the young girl. I've only seen the first part, but how did you as two men get into the mind of this young girl? Because it didn't seem like you were trying, because a lot of men, they can't really do females as three-dimensional, but particularly a young girl. Like, what made you make that decision?
Well,
man. Yeah, go ahead, Coodie, because you can.
I was gonna say, like, when it comes to that, is like, you know, I guess you just take from what you know. You know, I grew up with 3. You know, I had 3 sisters growing up. I'm the only boy, and I got a 12-year-old daughter. So it was like I just took from all of that to you know, yeah. And Chike, you.
I mean, I think too, it just deals a lot with, like, I think as filmmakers, as storytellers, you're constantly observing the world with the sense of non-judgment and not imposing yourself on the characters in life that you observe. You know what I'm saying? So I think you're constantly building like a library of just behaviors from people that you're watching. And I think if you can truly tap into that, you know, you can almost become yourself you can become that person. You know, you just don't impose like your beliefs or your characteristics as a man onto, like, be honest with like that female energy and that voice that you're trying to bring to life. And that's kind of what we did. I actually never even thought about that until you just
right.
Yeah, I really commend you because it was like I would have believed a woman had done it. Like it was just so calming. I didn't see any stereotypes. So you saw like a lot of, like even with the women on the corner, they were all different. They all different attitudes. And I just really want to commend you because a lot of black male filmmakers don't do that. Yeah. And so when I see it, I have to say something about it because I appreciate it. And I write coming of age, so it automatically drew me in for that. So I really, really appreciate you guys.
It was also too not being scared to like ask. Like I definitely like asked my mother about stuff. Just, you know, Mom, you was here at this time. Like, what do you remember this scene playing out? Or like when we're on the set, when we're talking to the actor, like especially to like the young lady, like, well, it's written like this, but how do you feel it? Like, how would you express this if you were in this scenario? And then she'll let you, okay, so bring that to it. Like let's try it like that then, you know. Yeah.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. So did you guys shoot that all in New Orleans?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But if you ever do anything in Atlanta, you gotta let me know.
Oh yeah, we look forward to it. I know they got the Tyler Perry got that.
Yeah.
We definitely trying to bless it with some work, you know. So yeah.
But keep writing and keep creating, because I was really just blown away by your work, and I wasn't familiar with you until someone sent me an email about this, and I was like, who is Chike and Coodie? I was like, wow. I now know who you guys are. So my name is Kate Priest. Very nice to meet you.
Pleasure. Likewise.
I'm already following you, Chike, on Instagram. I couldn't find you, Coodie, so I guess you're not on.
It's Coodie Rock. COODIEROCK. Coodie Rock.
Okay, yeah. And I'm K Prism, so you guys.
Okay, I'm gonna follow you back for sure.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Alex, for doing this. Appreciate
you bet. My pleasure.
Peace.
We have a question from Christopher Carpenter. Move you over.
There you are. Hello.
Peace, Chris.
Hey, Chris, what's happening, Christopher?
Thank you guys so much for doing this. I just signed up for the for topic, and I'm excited to check out the 3 episodes. But I was curious, from the perspective of research, how you handled. I mean, did you conduct interviews? Did you do academic sources, or is it just things that you knew being a local of the city?
Combination, definitely a lot of things that we knew from being locals, but a lot of research, a lot of just like digging through old photographs, researching like the era, researching like even to Pillow Shop, researching like the different types of apparatuses that would be, you know, applied to somebody with this type of condition. Can this condition even exist? Like really trying to cycle in all different aspects of the storytelling so that they make sense if somebody were to dig a little bit deeper, making sure like the context behind some of these stories, that if you wanted to go down a rabbit hole, you could, you know? So it was a lot of online, like a lot of research, definitely a lot of asking of professionals or just researching essays that professionals have written to just back in, you know, so for sure.
Very cool. Okay. That's awesome. Looking forward to it. And I appreciate you guys coming on to speak with us tonight.
Appreciate you, Chris.
Yeah, appreciate you. Peace. Yes, sir.
All right, we have a question from Nana.
Hello.
Hey.
Peace, how you doing?
Nice to meet you both. This is so beautiful.
Likewise.
Hey.
So I'm a production student at USC in my MFA. And I'm wondering, because when people ask me what my dreams are, I'm like, I want to direct TV, movies, music videos. And I'm wondering for you, if you have any advice about people who want to do a bunch of things like you all do. Like, do you think it's best to kind of prove yourself with one thing and then try to do other things? Do you think it's cool to just kind of do everything? Any insight on that?
Who do you have a good one? Because you kind of, that fits you a little bit.
Well, I mean, it's really just about doing, you know, it's about following your passion and understand what you want to do. You know, like Chike said, I was doing stand-up comedy and then had a public access show that I was the host of, and then I just grabbed the camera and started filming with the camera because I fell in love with what we were doing and people were liking it. So, you know, that passion just took over, and I stopped doing comedy because I lost the passion of comedy and started just filming and ran into Kanye West, and that was, you know, history of just picking up the camera. You know, I didn't go to film. I barely graduated high school, so it's like, you know, I just did it, and it was, you know, like I say, it was all God. It was just leading me to what this is, you know. And I didn't know. I started at 12, I was in radio TV class with my sister, my older sister, and, you know, just chaperoning her and seeing them do camera stuff, and I didn't even know what was going on. I'm just like watching, and I just kind of fell in love at that moment. I realized, you know, looking back at that moment, but, you know, once it presented itself, I was ready. You know, I had a camera and I just made it happen, and met Chike, and the rest is, you know, history to now. So
I think one piece of advice I can give you though is like, just from our journey, is like definitely identify those as very different things. Like music videos will never get you an opportunity to do a documentary. It'll never get you an opportunity to do a movie. Like nobody's gonna see a music video and be like, oh, you can do a movie. Yeah. They're in the industry, they're looked at even to commercials, music videos, documentaries, films are looked at completely different, as they might as well be their own entity. So it's really understanding the institutions of what those things require for you to get involved in them at the highest level, and then respecting that as like, I feel like it wasn't until like we thoroughly decided to become students of film that the opportunities start to arise in film, because we started to look at it as like a real institution. Like people like at art, I went to art school. Like if you want to be a fine artist, the level of like your stuff is in a gallery, you have to understand the institution of art. You have to understand all the masters that came before you and what they were doing. You got to understand like how can you show your understanding and knowledge of all those people that came before you in your work. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people just think, oh, I can make it. No, it's like you got to read, you got to understand screenwriting, you got to understand the art of screenwriting. You know what I mean? So I feel like even if you're going to be music videos, understand the artistry of music videos, understand the music video directors that came before you and the work that they were doing, so that if you're doing something, you know you're not doing something that was already done, or if you are doing it, you're doing it because you know that was done, and now you're showing your spin on it. And you know what I mean? And people that know the craft are respecting that. Same with documentaries. So I think it's really just respecting the lane that you want to go in. I think you can definitely do it all, but I would just understand what all encompasses.
And respect the journey too, because, you know, I was documenting Kanye for a documentary, you know, that led into a music video. Then all of a sudden I became a music video director, you know. But that's not where I didn't even want that. Chike wanted to be that, but we, you know, but it's still storytelling and filmmaking. So we was loving that as well, because it's all about filmmaking and storytelling.
Don't try to fight it. Go with the flow. You know what I'm saying? When you move, go with it. Don't sit in the passenger seat. Like we always say, like we let God drive our, you know, our work, and we just flow with it. And if opportunities come, like we assess it as like, okay, this is what must be where we need to be. You're gonna have an idea of how you want to do it, but it might not play out exactly how you see it. So you just have to be open to achieving your goal, but let it work out how it works out. Like Coodie said, definitely respect that journey. Don't worry about how the journey looks. Just worry about where you're trying to go to. You know what I'm saying? And being confident. The main thing is being confident in knowing in your whole heart you can achieve that. You can't have any doubt in your mind that you're not going to achieve that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So beautiful to meet you both. Thank you, Alex, for letting me ask my question.
Thank you.
Hey, nice to meet you too.
Bye.
Okay, so before I take the last question, I'm going to post something through chat because it came in through the Q&A, but it's from Deneen Tyler, and didn't necessarily want me to call.
Yeah.
So I'll let you guys just soak that in for a second, and I'm going to call on Josh Burley, and this will be the last one.
Deneen was amazing to work with.
Oh yeah.
She played the Nanan of the in Grace, and she was a pleasure. It's amazing. I can't wait to work with her again.
All right, so Josh, we should at least get your microphone. There we go.
Hello, can you hear me?
Peace.
Awesome. Hello.
What's up?
I am doing well. Okay, there we go. Awesome.
What's up?
Josh, peace.
I'm doing amazing. So just from listening to you guys, love hearing from what you guys are doing, whatnot. Much respect to you guys. So a little bit about myself. I'm a COVID grad. I'm looking for opportunities to get into the film industry and stuff, and kind of was wondering if there was a way for me to kind of jump in, participate in any sort of fashion or whatnot. If not, or what is your advice for young actors like myself trying to get in onto upcoming projects?
I mean, I think, well, as far as as acting, I'm sure the trajectory of, because like I said, everything is different. So as far as like the trajectory of an actor, your journey is going to be completely different than my journey. You know, just from speaking to actors, I have such a respect for actors because it's a whole nother skill set that I don't have. You know what I mean? Right. But and their journey is completely different. So I mean, I feel like the best advice I would have was definitely like, you know, I think it's the best thing in life to do is just to find mentorship, to find people that you admire that already have like done exactly what you're trying to do, and like utilize them and hit as many different people as you need to, but utilize them for that advice to guide you on that journey, because they've already been on that journey. You know, as far as for us is how we look at how we interact with actors. It's for us, it's so much like just from a director, and there might be different directors might be different, but for us, it's like when you're writing a screenplay, you already see who you see. And as a director, you're really just trying to match up somebody. It's like even I might have like a best friend that be like, "Can I play?" Like I can't even tell you no. I don't know, because if I don't see you, I don't see. Like if I don't see you when we're writing the screenplay, like then it's like we're trying to match up that. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you come into like if we have a casting call and somebody comes into a casting call and they just kill it to where they totally change what you thought you wanted and bring up a new character, that's the case too. But I think the best thing is like just make sure that you're on your craft 100%. Like if you just stay on it 100%, like good rises to the top. Like you will be seen. You know what I'm saying? But it's gonna be a journey for sure. You know what I mean? And same for us. Like we've been doing this for a while now. I'm 42 now. It wasn't overnight. You know what I mean? So I feel like definitely with acting, like you could pop off tomorrow, you could pop off 10 years from now, but you got to love it enough to not care about that, about how long it takes you, because even the struggle you love, you know what I'm saying? You're going to have to love that process.
Most definitely. I much respect to that. I kind of, forgive me if I'm kind of restating my question a little bit. I was wondering if you guys for you guys have any other new projects coming up that you're looking for, any new faces or anything, and kind of so like how do I get in on that?
I mean, we're always developing projects, and we're always rummaging through, the internet for actors reels. Like when we were looking for Soul City, basically for Soul City, we literally was like just on the internet combing. We were working with the casting director, but we're also just on our own combing through talent. So I would just like, you have our Instagram, Coodie's Instagram, shoot us links to work. You know what I'm saying? Like really, it don't matter for us about the name you are. It's just about like what you bring as an actor to the role,
And I feel like too, like everything happened for a reason, Josh. You know what I'm saying? When you pay attention to that, it's like things will start happening, and what you want always, can happen. If you think it and want it, it's done. And I look at that all the time. Like this had to happen for this to happen, and if I wasn't at this event and met Omar Dorsey, I wouldn't know Omar Dorsey to ask Omar Dorsey to be in my movie, and he already doing big movies. So it's like, everything happened for a reason. So, awesome. That. So, just make sure you keep in touch and never know what happened.
And they happen unorthodoxly. I swear to God, like a lot of our relationships and a lot of the reasons why we have been put in some of the positions we are in, a lot of the talent that we've been able to like, especially on this access is a lot of it is like Coodie's a socialite. When we go out, Coodie's got like really just the way he carries himself, and he's not afraid to put himself in situations. Like he likes to surround himself with energy of people. And so I think because of that, he's fostered a lot of relationships, and then relationships have nothing to do with him being a director. They just have everything to do with him being a likable person. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And people want to work with him. So.
Awesome. Yeah. One last question. So myself and a few of my friends were also trying to get into writing. So what are your thoughts as far as like being inspired to write? Like what is the the thing that motivates you guys when it comes to writing your stories or your projects for your upcoming films and stuff?
But I think first it start with the idea in your head, to what story you want to tell, and then like I wrote a screenplay and I just seen the movie in my head and just started writing it down how I seen it. Like I'm watching the movie as I'm writing, which came out pretty okay. But then when I give it to somebody to see what they think, somebody who knows screenplay, they're looking at it like, this is not structured right. It's not this. So I had to go, and Chike both we went and got this book called What We Was Told by Nina Bon Jovi, who read one of my drafts. She was like, you need to read a book called Story by Robert McKee. So that's what I had to read, this big book. Chike read it. I read it
2 times, 3 times.
Right, he read it.
Yeah.
So to understand how to put what you see in your head on paper, you have to really study. And you graduate, so I know you study it. So
the thing about screenwriting, I think that we learned the most too is like you're not gonna be born, like you're just not gonna just start writing a screenplay. Like it's just not like you. That's the one thing that you just have to like put the work in, learn the craft, in and out, find your best way in. Like for me and for Coodie, like Robert McKee's story worked well for us because we're spiritual, and so like he talks from a more of a psychological space, less of a text. So that worked for us. You know what I'm saying? Save the Cat is another great book. It's more technical. Yep. Some people might respond to more of it laid out technically. You know what I mean? So you got to find your path, but you're gonna have to like through school and definitely through reading and learning, just like storytelling from Plato. Like you can't. That's not being broken. You know what I'm saying? You gotta know that. And I think the more you like, I've read Story twice. I feel like I have to read it again because it's just it's a lot to it. You know what I'm saying? Screenplay is much harder. And
you don't lose too, right? Like a weekend conference thing where you sit down and he delivers all that stuff live.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All that's great. Like however you need to digest it. Like I've definitely seen some of the stuff like Masterclass. I think there's another writer. He gives a great masterclass. He's actually referenced in Robert McKee's book, and I read his book. And his book was great because his book was just specifically about how you turn in beats. How do you turn these beats over scene by scene? You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's really just on this, like 50, 100 pages just on that, just on turning a beat. You know what I mean? But these are things that I thought I could write a screenplay before that. Then I realized I had no clue what I was doing. I was so proud of what I'd written until I realized what I'd written was actually garbage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you don't lose the idea though. Right?
Yeah, the story's still
rewrite. All you're doing is rearranging your idea to make the story flow and hit the beats that you need to hit. But your idea is still there. Your story is still there. It's amazing how that works. Yeah.
It's just more about how you tell your story. Like the thing about screenwriting, it's a craft of how do you tell a story the best. But your idea is your idea. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We could have an idea, and an idea can be expressed 100 different ways. So, and that's what a screenplay is. It's like expressing that idea that you have. So,
basically, just following through with whatever your idea, whether it works or not, and just kind of take the good with the bad and continue to flow from it. Basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just understanding, just really learn the best way, like how a story. There's so many different ways to tell a story. Like learn storytelling and learn the rules before you start breaking the rules. You know what I'm saying?
Awesome. So. I greatly appreciate it. I have many questions to ask y'all. Hopefully, y'all get to do this again. It was very informative for me. I just followed y'all on Instagram as well.
Okay.
That's what's I'm gonna check out for you.
No problem. Hopefully, y'all follow me back, Jay. Brother.
Yeah, I will.
Send us some of your work, man. I'd love to see your chops.
Well, most definitely will do. Thank y'all so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Josh, good luck.
Peace, Josh.
So, man, I can't wait for this next season. I hope you guys get to start making it soon.
No, we do too.
We're working on some other stuff too. Like we're developing other in this genre, you know, and then there's other docs we're working on. So we got a lot of stuff coming out. Like next year will be a big year for us. So, yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for spending the past hour and 15 minutes with us. And,
oh man.
Thank you, man. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate it.
For sure.
Hopefully we can do this again soon. Maybe live.
Maybe project. Come on, let's go. You know what I'm saying? It's all about giving. You know what I'm saying? It's, you give, you take, and you give. You got to give back, though. Yeah.
And for everyone that had the issue with topic, I will look into it and I'll send something out. So cool. Thank you guys so much.
All right, for sure. Peace. Alex.